Right. So theories offers a framework for thinking about ideas, right? And methodology offers method for gathering ideas so that they can be rationally integrated to build a theoretical framework. Therefore, theory and methodology serve as two crucial pillars that support the discipline's structure. Right, we've already spoken about the methodological direction, the methods through which you can collect data. And then all that we are trying to say here is that it is through the methods that you collect data that helps you get the requisite information to be able to formulate a theory. So the method of collecting data and the theoretical perspective are two basic things that or the basic underpinnings of every discipline. Because based on the theoretical perspective that you interpret and make inferences, and then through the methodological directions that you'll be able to collect enough data to be able to make theories. So every field and every discipline has its own disciplinary action or its own discipline or its own theoretical perspectives. So the same way, since so far as anthropology is also a discipline, anthropology also has its own methodological directions and theoretical perspectives. As for the methodological way of collecting data, we've already spoken about them. But here, this section is solely going to be based on theoretical perspectives, and then we are going to look at some of the founding fathers and their basic underpinnings so far as the, the discipline of sociology is concerned. Now, there are a lot of major theoretical ideas in the discipline of anthropology, but for the purpose of this session, all that we are going to talk about today would be the evolutionism, the cultural relativism, historical particularism, and the functionalism theoretical perspectives. So these are the four theories that we'll be talking about, and then these four theories, they are different pioneers or different founding fathers that actually pioneered these theories. Without wasting much time, let's go through the evolutionism theory. With the evolutionism theory, this theory was actually coined by Taylor, right? It was coined by Edward B. Taylor and Lewis H. Morgan. Right? So it's a prominent early theory in anthropology that sought to understand the development of human societies and culture in terms of a linear progression from simple to a complex form. So just as we know the general idea about evolution, evolution means that every phenomena or everything or every event has a starting point. It starts from one point and it's moving to another. And then the starting point, we mostly liken them to the simple point and then to the complex point. Right? To the simple point and to the complex point. So, in the same way, the evolutionism theory of anthropology is saying that every society and each culture moves in a linear progression form. That is from the simple to the complex forms. Right? Now, when we talk about the simple to the complex form, we are talking about the society and its cultural ideologies moving from the savagery to barbarianism and eventually reaching the pinnacle of civilization. Like we know of Auguste Comte's law of three stages, a situation whereby there is evolution from theoretical perspective, right? There is evolution right, from a situation whereby we explain, we relate everything to spiritual entities. Right, that is theoretical perspective, and then to the metaphysical entity positivist. So this is the same idea that Edward B. Tyler is trying as much as possible to to depict that society and culture also moves in a progressive manner from simple to complex form. Right, and then Tyler proposed the idea of cultural evolution and the concept of animism, suggesting that early religions were attempts to explain natural phenomena and that belief in spirit was a universal feature of human culture. Belief in spirit was, so as you say, it moved from simple to complex. So it means that in the earlier societies, everything was explained by religion. Everything was explained from the perspective of the spirit realm. But then we are moving to a situation whereby everything is being explained in the perspective of rationality and scientific ideas. So this is the evolution that Edward B. Tyler is talking about. That if you want to study a society, then you must study a society in a progressive manner. Right? You must take into consideration the progressive dynamics that what society goes through. And these ideas of Edward B. Tyler has been subjected to a lot of critiques, right? A lot of criticisms. Right? And then some people are saying that his idea is oversimplification of the origin of man. That why would you say that we or the origin of society, that every society begins from a simple society to a complex society? So it's an oversimplification of diverse human societies. Right. So there has been a lot of criticisms against this idea of Edward B. Tyler. So the rise of a cultural relativism and the acceptance of different parts of cultural development led to the decline of strict evolutionism in favor for more nuanced and context-specific approaches in anthropology. Right. So as I said earlier, there's been a lot of criticisms against the evolutionism theory. And then one of the theories that emanated that criticized the ideas of Edward B. Tyler and Louis H. Morgan is the idea of cultural relativism. That you can't say that every situation or every culture moves from a simple to a complex society. That if you want to study a society, you want to understand a society, you must understand it from that perspective, from an evolutionism perspective, from a progressive manner. So the cultural evolutionism or the cultural relativism theory, as we will dive much deeper into it, actually came to criticize the ideas of Edward B. Tyler, his idea of evolutionism. Right. Cultural relativism, historical particularism. Cultural relativism and historical particularism. Right now, the cultural relativism, this was coined by a German American anthropologist, often regarded as the father of American anthropologists, who is called Franz Boas. Franz Boas lived from 1858 to 1942. So, as I said, he is mostly called the father of what American anthropologists. So, Boas argued that we must look for cultural specific information, that we can't study society based on the evolutionism idea. You can't say that one society is developed and the other society is low rank, that is simple society. That you can't say that your society is superior to other society. So according to the ideas of Franz Boas, his idea of cultural relativism, according to him, we must understand and study every cultural practices, beliefs, and values in the context of the society in which everything occurs, in which those practices are being put up. So, according to him, he brought about the emic perspective of studying society. He brought about the emic perspective of studying society, that we need to understand cultural practices, beliefs, and values, base and interpret them within the context of the culture in which they occur. So we must understand them within the environment, within the boundaries of the societies in which they occur. So this perspective rejects the notion of cultural superiority and insists on suspending judgment about practices that may seem strange or unfamiliar from an outsider's perspective. So this idea that you can't say that one culture is superior than the other. Right? So we can say that it was the idea that was being depicted by the evolutionism theory, that is Edward B. Tyler, that society moves from a simple to a complex state, actually depicted some sort of inequality, some sort of ethnocentrism That is seeing your country, seeing your society as what superior to other societies. So Franz Boas criticized the ideas and said that we must study society, we must study culture based on the context in which the culture occurs, that we shouldn't do any comparative study. But then this also has been subjected to a lot of criticisms. How can you say that every culture must be studied based or in the context of the in the context of the society? How then do you get to realize that every society has their own culture if you are not going to do a comparative study of those cultures? He spoke against the idea of comparative study, that every study must be culture specific or a context specific information that we must gather. But the question is, how then do you know? How then are you able to know that every culture has their own set of ideologies, set of beliefs and assumptions that what that pioneers, that surrounds their daily activities and all that? How then are you able to know if you're not going to do a comparative study between cultures? That is another criticism that comes with the cultural relativism approach to study. And then key ideas in the cultural relativism. Now, the key ideas in the cultural relativism talks is what? Cultural understanding. That anthropologists practicing cultural relativism aim to understand the cultural practices from the perspective of the people within it. And then it also talks about avoidance of ethnocentrism. As I said, it is the sense of ethnocentrism that came up with the ideas of the evolutionist idea. That is what actually sprouts the interest of Franz Boas to actually bring about the cultural relativism. So cultural relativism encourages anthropologists to avoid imposing their own culture, values, and norms on the society they study. There's also cultural diversity. Now, the cultural diversity as being a key point under the cultural relativism is what? Recognizing and celebrates the diversity of human cultures, acknowledging that there are multiple ways of organizing societies and understanding the world. As I said, how then do you know that there is diversity of human culture and acknowledging them if you are not going to do a comparative study? If you are not going to do a comparative study between them. Another idea Franz Boas is his idea of historical particularism. And then that also goes against the ideas of the evolutionism, the ideas of Tyler, right? The ideas of Tyler, that he said that every society comes from a simple society to a complex society. But then Franz Boas was arguing that every society has its own distinct historical background. Every society has its own distinct historical background from any other society. So therefore, it is some sort of oversimplification of the origin of society, of human societies, by saying that every society begins from a simple state to a theoretical state. So according to his idea of historical particularism, right, it emphasizes the uniqueness of each culture's development and rejects the idea of universal pattern of cultural evolution. So also again, let's look at the basic concept in the theory of historical particularism. Now, the basic concept talks about cultural diversity in history, that every culture has its own diverse one, its own distinct history. So historical particularism argues that each culture has its own unique history shaped by specific historical events, environmental forces, and cultural interactions. It also talks about fieldwork and detailed study. So Boas advocated for detailed fieldwork and the collection of rich context-specific data to understand the unique historical trajectories of culture. It also talks about the rejection of universal laws, rejects the idea that there are universal laws governing cultural development and evolution. Right. Up to date, his ideas of universal laws has not been explained. Another theoretical perspective is the theory of functionalism. The theory of functionalism. One thing we need to know is that functionalism in anthropology has contributed a lot to the discipline. Right. Functionalism in anthropology has contributed a lot to the discipline. When we talk about the ideas of functionalism, they actually sees the society, the culture, norms, and values as being parts, as being not as what as an organic being, that it has different parts that performs different interrelated functions to ensure survival and the existence of the body. So in the same way, the functionalist ideas in anthropology also takes the idea that every society, there are different social structures in the society, and these structures perform different functions that perform different functions in order to ensure the survival of the society. In order to ensure the survival of the society. So the two versions of functionalism was developed between 1910 and 1930. Now, when we talk about functionalism in anthropology, we are talking about the two main ideas of Malinowski and Alfred Reginald Redcliffe Brown. Now, Malinowski actually provided what we called biopsychological functionalism. And then Alfred Reginald Redcliffe Brown also spoke about what we call structural functionalism. Now, with Malinowski's idea of functionalism, he says, or he coined the term, cultural needs or functional needs or needs of functionalism. Right? That according to him, yes, human beings human beings need some biological needs. Right? Human possess some biological needs, and then it is the culture and the customs of the society that provide these needs to the individual, So according to Branislaw Malinowski, he limited his idea of functionalism to the culture and biological needs relationship. That yes, human beings has biological needs, the desire to eat, the desire to procreate, right? The desire to even cover our nakedness. He linked that function to as what to be performed by the cultural practices of the society. So Malinowski is from Poland and is known to be the founder of British social anthropology. So Malinowski was an anthropologist from Poland and is one of the most famous anthropologists of the 20th century. He at times is also known as the father of ethnography due to his extensive fieldwork in Trioban Islands. He was strongly a functionalist since he believed society constitutes different interrelated parts that performs different functions to ensure survival. He also proposed need functionalism or needs functionalism. As I said and explained earlier, according to Malinowski, human possesses a sort of universal biological needs, and various constructs and institutions are established to meet these needs. Now, when we look at the definition of social institution, right, we are talking about the normative patterns of behavior, right? That's what performs and that provides for the needs of the individual, or the normative patterns of behavior structured around the needs of the individual. This, in a way, can be linked to the idea of Branislaw Malinowski, his idea of needs functionalism. Yes, we have biological needs, but then these biological needs are being performed by the social institutions and the cultural practices that we have ourselves or we see ourselves in. So the role of any practice is determined by its function in satisfying fundamental biological requirements, such as the need for food, shelter, and so on. For example, yes, we have the biological need to breathe in air or to get air to breathe for inhalation. So all we need to do is just open our nose and just inhale air. You have the biological need, to service our sexual behavior, and then society and the institutions, the marriage institution, provide the means, the framework through which you can service all these needs. So these are the ideas of what Branislaw Malinowski, his idea of what needs functionalism. Also, we also need to talk about the ideas of Alfred Reginald Redcliffe Brown, his idea of structural functionalism. The reason why we have added structural functionalism to the ideas of Branislaw is that his idea of functionalism was based on the social structures. But then, as for Madlonsky, he limited it to the cultural practices, the social institutions, and to the biological needs that of these social institutions will perform or services. But then, Redcliffe Brown, he based his idea of functionalism on the social structure of every society. So Redcliffe Brown is an English and was born in 1881. He was much interested in the way society functions than in culture and meaning. So as I said, he was much interested in the way the society has been structured, the way structures has been put in place in order to ensure survival, in order to make sure that the human beings in the society exist and coexist among each other and endure and develop certain and shared adaptive strategies in order for survival. So he was least interested in cultural practices and meaning, since cultural practices and meaning are also embedded in the structures of the society. So he gave us a very wide idea about functionalism so far as anthropology is concerned. And then he was greatly influenced by the ideas of Emile Durkheim, especially his idea of social fact that human beings, in order to understand the behavior of the human being, we need to understand what we call things that are objective to the individual and cohesive to the individual, the things that the individual do not have control over, the things that dictate for the individual what they are supposed to do and what they are not supposed to do. That is the structural functionalism, the structures that has been put in place that is cohesive and independent of the individual, that they cannot be reduced to the level of the individual. So Redkebran compares human societies to living organisms which are made up of cells and organs performing essential tasks for the functioning and maintenance of the body. Redkebran stressed the interdependence of different elements within a society. He proposed that social structures and institutions work together in a functional manner, such like the organs in living organisms. This emphasizes the interdependence. This emphasis on interdependence was a central theme in structural functionalism. So he explored the roles of social institutions such as kinship system, marriage, and religious practices in maintaining social cohesion. Redkebran argued that these institutions serve specific function in regulating behavior, resolving conflict, and ensuring the smooth functioning of society. Unlike Marilonsky, he actually based his idea of functionalism based on the biological functions that the social institutions perform. That if there is an institution that do not perform or do not service any of the biological needs of the individual, Redkebran do not classify that as functional. But then the ideas of Alfred Reginald is what the is that on every social structure, every social institution performs specific function. So that means that these functions are not limited to only the biological needs of the individual, but then they perform specific and distinct functions that are interdependent and ensure what the survival of the society, ensure the survival of the community. For example, the family system provide the family and marriage provide the kinship system, the religious practices. They all maintain social cohesion in the society. So these are the ideas of Alfred Reginald Redcliffe, that every social institution, every cultural practices in the society, every social institution or society is put into structures, and then every social structure or every social institution perform distinct function in order to ensure survival of the society. In order to ensure the survival of the society. Now, another founding father of the discipline of anthropology is Marcel Mauss. Marcel Mauss. Now, the ideas of Marcel Mauss has also been relevant. Now, Marcel Mauss, he did not engage in any field work, right? He is seen as an armchair or anthropologist. That means that he has not engaged in any field work before. But then, the only thing that he did was the book that he wrote, that is the gift, Forms and Functions of Exchange in archaic societies, written in the 1969 in his only work. He argued that reciprocity, the exchange of goods and services, is the glue that knits members in a society together in the absence of a centralized power. And then Marcel Mauss, he was also related to Emile Durkheim. So according to Marcel Mauss, a gift is the extension of the giver, and so what is given is the representative of the giver. So Marcel Mauss' idea has been utilized by a lot of economic theorists. So all that Marcel Mauss is trying to say is that for a society to survive, in order to understand a society, then we must understand the reciprocity nature of exchange of goods and services amongst them, because that is the only thing that keeps society together. Now, when we talk about reciprocity, we are talking about a situation whereby goods and services are being exchanged in a form of gifts. Now, we talk about reciprocity, we have three main types of reciprocity. We have the generalized reciprocity, we have the balanced reciprocity, and then we have the negative reciprocity. The reason why we are talking about it as we are saying that is reciprocity is because even though the person is giving the item or rendering the service unto you as a gift, all right, but then in the actual sense, it is not a gift. Since when the person is also in need, the person directly or indirectly expects you to also provide for him as soon as the need be. So when you talk about the general reciprocity in a way, whenever you give something or you perform a service unto someone, the person indirectly, right? A person indirectly, you know, will not directly expect you to give back unto the person, but the person indirectly expects you to give back unto that person. For example, we live in a society whereby parents are investing a lot in the education of their children, investing a lot in the future of their children. And then the parents, even though they will not tell you explicitly that I want you to finish so that you come and take care of me, right? But then indirectly, whatever that they are doing, indirectly, they expect you that when you get a better ground, when you get somewhere in future, you will remember them and then come and give back to them, take care of them. That is a generalized reciprocity. That is a generalized reciprocity. And then we have a balanced reciprocity. Right? You have a balanced reciprocity. Now, with the generalized reciprocity, even to the point whereby whereby you fail to give back onto the parents, right? It's may not in a way affect your relationship with the parents. The balanced reciprocity also talks about a situation whereby you exchange gifts, right? You exchange gifts, all right, but then the person directly or the person here directly expects you to give back to the person. But then with the balanced reciprocity, that one you give back to me, and then I expect you to also give back to me in future. I expect you to also give back to me in future. Note that the generalized reciprocity, there's an indirect what expectation, but the balance, there's a direct expectation. But the one thing that differentiates the balance from the negative reciprocity is that, yes, in a situation whereby you fail to give back, it may or may not affect your relationship with the person. But then the negative reciprocity, as soon as the person gives you the gift, the person automatically and directly expect you to come and give back to him or her. That as soon as maybe the person is in need and then you refuse to give back to the person, knowing fully well that you sustain the ability to help the person, it will go a long way to cost you the relationship with the person. So the idea of Marcel Mauss about how people exchange goods and services, how gifts are being exchanged, how goods and services are being exchanged in the form of gifts, glue and knit people together, because I know that yes, I have to give to you, you are giving to me, so the next time I have to come and give to you. So that actually brought some sort of what togetherness among the people, regulated the people, even though there wasn't any centralized framework that was regulating their activities. And the one thing that made this reciprocity form of exchange, success is that the children, as soon as the younger generation is born, the children are being socialized with it. They are being socialized with it. So as soon as you are born, you are being socialized to give gifts unto people. So as I said, a gift is not a gift, but then in the future it is expected unto you to give back to the person that gave it to you or to another person. So that is the ideas of Marcel Mauss. And as I said, the ideas of Marcel Mauss has been utilized by a lot of economic theorists. This brings us the end of theories of anthropology and the founding fathers of anthropology. There are many more. We have the diffusion anthropology, the diffusionism theory, right? That goes contrary to the ideas of functionalism theory. Right? The functionalism theory says that every society performs different functions that make sure that the society, endures. But the diffusionism approach or the diffusion approach says that the functions that they perform are not sacrosanct. Like the institution, just as you could see the family institution performing different functions. So those are the ideas. So they came to counter the ideas of the functionalist perspective. So these are some of the theoretical perspectives that have shaped the concepts and the discipline of anthropology. So this brings us to the end of this lecture. I know and I hope that learning has taken place and that you have been blessed with this session. Once again, do not forget to subscribe, share, comment, and like this video. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Once again, this is the Zero Guides, where learning knows no limits. Where learning knows no limits. So I want you to know that yes, whatever you set up your mind to do, you'll be able to do. So sociology is not difficult. As soon as you stay with me, sociology is going to be interested. So thank you very much. Don't forget to hit the subscription button. Thank you. Bye bye.